Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's episode of Ask Leah. I've had an awesome week this week, big week. It's seen me deliver a couple of workshops and do some one-on-one mentoring. Yesterday, I was delivering report writing training for finance and governance staff in the water industry. And my big mission whenever I deliver report writing training is to deliver engaging report writing training. I think a lot of people out there in corporate have sat through those boring, dull training sessions, and my mission in any training I deliver is not to be that. So yesterday I had great fun doing that. This morning I did some one-on-one mentoring with a client who has just, I actually really hope she's watching this because she has just soared over the last, I've been working with her for over 6 months now, and to see the progress that she has made is just outstanding and really quite exceptional. So that was awesome. And then this afternoon I did one of my favorite things, which is present a workshop. I presented a condensed version of Soft is the New Hard, how to communicate effectively under pressure, and I presented that in the mining industry. Now, I've got to tell you, my absolute favourite audiences, and of course, I always love what I'm doing, but my absolute favourite audience to present to is people in an industry or in a workplace that has never been exposed to this sort of training, never done anything in the soft skill space, never worked on communication before or emotional intelligence or mindset. So I was presenting to 30 people in the mining industry today, guys and girls who are out there driving heavy machinery, have been doing so for years, and we were talking communication. And you can see the body language when people come into that sort of workshop, like, bloody hell, what is this load of crap? What's management putting me through? And what I love is seeing the transformation throughout the session where you see people sit up a bit straighter and go, oh, hang on. This actually benefits every area of my life. This isn't just going to help me at work. This is going to help me in my relationship at home with my partner. Absolutely, yes, it will. The reason that I'm training everyone now from mining industry to water to, the whole gamut is because soft skills are the new hard. People are hiring for this these days. Gone are the days where you could just be a good operator and good at the technical part of your job. Now, organisations are hiring people who are good to work with, because it actually doesn't, you might be the best truck driver going around, but if you can't communicate with your colleagues, if you fly off the handle the minute you get a bit of feedback, then you're not the person that they want. So it's catching a lot of people off guard. A lot of people in those traditional technical or heavy industries have never done work in this space. But gee, to see them learning, to see them taking it in and see the engagement on people that at the start you really picked up weren't keen, it's just awesome. It's why I love what I do. All right, one question to answer. Hi, Carly, thanks for joining. One question to answer tonight, but I'm going to give 5 key tips for it. If anyone else has a question, feel free to ask. And as always, if you have a question, do make sure you send it through. So tonight's question came via LinkedIn, actually, and it was someone who reached out to me and asked the question. They said, you know what, I'm a bit of an introvert. I'm a bit of a passive communicator. So, I find it hard to speak up for myself. And her question was, what can I do to help develop my assertiveness? What can I do to help me speak up more? And I want to outline 5 key tips tonight. Now, there's a whole heap. I run a whole full-day workshop on assertiveness, but I want to give you 5 key tips tonight. Hi, Katie. It's a family love-in tonight. So 5 key tips to develop your assertiveness. And the interesting thing with these key tips is they're not necessarily what you expect. People who want to develop their assertiveness often think, just give me the quick fix, just give me the quick pill. And I can give you a whole heap of tips and tricks. But if you don't address these 5 key things first, you'll never be able to do it in practice. So let's go. 5 tips for the passive people, the introverts out there, to start their journey to be more assertive. Number 1 is know your value. Now, I said it wasn't easy. This is a big one, and it's not just something you snap your fingers and solve. This answer here is why I developed a whole separate workshop called Shut the Hell Up, how to control that little voice of self-doubt. Because if you don't value yourself, it doesn't matter what communication tips and tricks you know, you won't be able to put them in practice. So here's the reality. As a human, your rights are no more or less important than anyone else's. This isn't about hierarchy in a business. This isn't about whether you're the boss or you're the cleaner or the staff member or whatever. But you need to understand that as a human, you have value. You are allowed to have an opinion. It doesn't mean people will listen to it, but you are allowed to be heard. You are allowed to have a voice. You are allowed to have an opinion. So developing that value in yourself, if there's nothing else that you do, start with that. And that's a whole other workshop in itself. Number 2, similar to know your value, but this is know your values. Know your values and what you stand for. It's really hard to know when to stand up if you don't know what you stand for, okay? So you have to get really clear on what you value, and it's different for everyone, okay? There's no one right or wrong, but the more you know yourself, the better you will get at knowing when to stand up. So what are the deal breakers for you? Okay, what are your values and what's your line in the sand? Now, it is different for everyone. For me, and I know some of those watching now know that for me, deal breakers are any injustice, racism, discrimination, sexism. It's a deal breaker for me. Now, I get that that's not a deal breaker for everyone. I get that. But for me, it is. So that knowing that about myself helps me that if I'm in a situation, and I have been many a time, where someone says something that crosses that line for me, I will speak up. And I don't go, oh, should I speak up now or should I not? Oh, it's a bit uncomfortable. I know that that line has been crossed for me and I have to have the conversation. It's not about me jumping in and attacking someone else or saying, no, you're wrong and being really aggressive, but it's actually about me being okay with me. I outline one of these stories in my book, a story where a dear friend of mine, who may watch this later, made a comment sitting beside me one night at swimming lessons about people with disabilities, and he used the R word. That's a deal breaker for me. It's not okay. I get people have been raised differently. I've got a long history, family history in the disability sector. It's a deal breaker for me. And in that moment, I didn't go, oh, do I say something or not? I knew I had to speak up, not in an aggressive way, but I had to say, mate, that's not cool. That's not okay. And we ended up having a great conversation about it. His response was, oh, I'm in construction, Leah. We all speak like that. And my challenge to him was, you know what? Well, this is why that's not okay. Now, it doesn't actually matter if he changed his mind because of that. It was about me. If I had said nothing, I would have gone home and I'd have that horrible feeling we get when we're not living true to ourselves, where we think, I should have said something, I should have spoken up, but I didn't, okay? So number 2, know your values and what your line in the sand is. It helps you to know when to stand up and be assertive. Okay, number 3. You can't please everyone. And boy, do some of us try. And I've fallen into this trap before as well. Hi, Caitlin. Thanks for joining. You cannot please everyone. You cannot please all the people all the time. It does not matter how nice you are, how hard you try, what a great worker you are. Some people won't like you. They won't like you because you're too nice. And geez, that's suspicious. You're always smiling. You're always happy. What's with that? Not normal. Okay, so you will not please all the people all the time. all you can aim for, all you can try to do, and it does sound a bit naff, but it is so true, is be the best version of yourself, right? You show up, you have a crack, you try your best. Sometimes you'll get it right, sometimes you'll stuff it up. Let's be honest, we're all human. But you won't please all the people. Some people just won't like you. So when people say to me, you know, but what if I speak up and they judge me, or what if they do this and what will they think of me? Here's the reality, folks. It's not great. We don't like it, but it is the reality. People are judging you anyway. People are judging you, making decisions about you, whether you speak up or not. Okay? So it doesn't matter what you do in life, there will be judgment there. So it's about you being okay with you. And as I always say to people, success is being able to walk away knowing you did the best you can. So you might speak up, people might ignore you. You know, as long as you do that in the best way you can, you've done what you can. You can't get the result necessarily, but you can't please everyone. Okay, number 4. Understand that people are responsible for their own behaviour. You can't control other people, you can only control you. Now that said, I have seen people take this too far and they go, yeah, well, other people are responsible for their behaviour. So if they respond badly to the fact I just gave them very blunt, very rude, very aggressive feedback, that is their fault. It is not my fault. Now hang about, folks. That is taking it too far. Yes, everyone is responsible for the way they choose to react. However, you also have a responsibility to try your best to be a good person and communicate effectively. But it is true. People are responsible for their own behaviour. So I am responsible for my thoughts, my feelings. I'm responsible for that. You're not responsible for it. Okay? No one else is responsible for it, and I'm not responsible for yours. I will always try to be a good person. I will always try to give feedback in a kind, compassionate way. But even when we do that, okay, sometimes even when we do all of the things, we are kind, we're compassionate, we ask for permission to give the feedback, we do everything right, someone will choose to be offended, someone will choose to be upset, someone will choose to react poorly. And a lot of the time, if you've done everything you can, and that's the question, have you done everything you can? It's actually not about you. It's about them, okay? We are responsible for our own response. So that goes back to that whole point that I make, and I really go into it in the book around we actually get to choose how we respond in any given set of circumstances. And that's why the work on mindset is such an important part of communication training. Number 5, the last one, how can I start the process of stepping up, speaking up, and developing my assertiveness when I'm passive or a bit of an introvert? Number 5, and it is one of the C's in my book, in the 5 C's of effective communication, it's about courage, not confidence. I think confidence is oversold in our society. And we get told this story that you've got to be confident to speak up. And that holds a lot of people back because they think to themselves, well, I'm not confident, I'm nervous, I'm apprehensive, I'm scared. Oh, so I better not have the conversation. Rubbish. Even the most confident, articulate, assertive people still freak out, still have that self-doubt, still have those concerns when they have to have a difficult conversation. But what they realize is it's not about confidence, it's about courage. And sometimes we have to get really brave. So how can we harness this courage? How can we get more courageous to have that crack, to maybe try to speak up a little bit more? Well, for starters, try some low impact, low threat situations. Try someone asks you, where should we go for tea tonight? Try making a suggestion. What movie should we see? Try making a suggestion. Just try making suggestions in some really, not crucial, not conflict situations and see how you go. But the 3 questions to ask yourself to help you be more courageous. 1, what's the worst that can happen? If I have this conversation, what is the worst that can happen? Because often it is nowhere near as bad as what we get stuck in our head. What if this happens? What if that happens? Stop. What is the worst? Go there. What is the worst that can happen? Hi, Tanya, Belinda, and Christine. Thanks for joining. What's the worst that can happen? Second question, what's the reality if it did happen? You know, I ask this question of people when I train them in public speaking. What's the worst that can happen? Now, I've got to say, I had someone once in one of my workshops. I asked that question. She put her hand up and she said, the worst that can happen is that I pass out. And I've had that happen. And I went, ooh, yeah, that's pretty bad. She said, yeah, I passed out when I was giving a presentation. And I said, right, okay, let's use that example. What is the worst that can happen? Okay, you pass out again. What's the reality if that happens? Okay, you've done it once. What happened? She said it was really embarrassing. It was really embarrassing. I said, did people think less of your public speaking as a result? And she said, no, most people thought I was sick and that something had happened and I'd got faint and passed out. Actually, no one associated it with nerves. And I said, okay. So, okay, that's the worst that can happen. That's the reality if it does happen. Now, the third question, how do I mitigate the worst from happening? So how do I reduce the likelihood of that happening? And we came up with a plan for her. Now, usually when I train people in public speaking, I say, do not use the lectern, don't stand behind anything. That's a barrier. But to this woman, I said, right, to get you back in it, the first time you do public speaking again, you want to get behind a lectern and you want to just hold on to that lectern really firmly. You're going to hold on. And you're going to take some deep breaths. You're going to do some work beforehand to really manage your nerves. And you're going to have a chair behind the lectern. And if it really goes pear-shaped, you're just going to sit down, okay? To this woman's incredible credit, the last activity that I do in my public speaking workshop is around giving a short presentation. Now, for those of you coming along in March, don't freak out. It's not scary. Believe it or not, it's fun. Now, I know people go, yeah, bullshit, Leah. Public speaking is not fun. However, it is, because the topic we do is a really fun one. This woman, to her credit, she got up and she did that activity. And here was the beautiful thing. She got really courageous. She stood up there and did it. And then she helped rewrite her story to say, I passed out once when I did public speaking, but I've done it again and it didn't happen. And I had a plan if it did, okay? So same when you're thinking about how can I be more assertive? You've got to be courageous, because if you're not, if you wait for confidence, it may never come and you'll hold yourself back forever. And some people say, well, that's what I'm going to do. I'm never going to speak up for myself. This just is this is what it is. It is who I am. Here's the thing with that. There's nothing wrong with being a passive communicator, but it will hold you back. Okay, there will be things you want to speak up on that you won't. And you can still choose to stay quiet most of the time, but on the big things, you need to be able to stand up, put yourself forward. You will miss out on jobs and promotions otherwise, because all those beautiful big ideas you have will not come forward. So to recap super briefly, the 5 key tips for helping you start the shift from passive communicator to assertive. We're not getting into the quick tips and tricks. This is the deep stuff. And if you're thinking, oh, do I have to do that work? If you want to make permanent, ongoing change, yeah, you do. Number 1, know your value. Your rights are no more or less important than anyone else's, your basic human rights. Number 2, know your values, know what you stand for. It's hard to know what to stand up for if you don't know what you actually stand for. Number 3, you can't please everyone and you will kill yourself trying. Some people just won't like you. Number 4, understand people are responsible for their own behaviour and their response. So some people won't like what you have to say. And number 6, it's about courage, not confidence. Okay, it's time to get brave, folks. For those of you who are passive communicators, please get in touch. If you haven't already, grab yourself a copy of my book. It's got lots of tips in there. I do run an assertiveness workshop. I haven't run it for a while, actually. So if that's something you'd be interested in, please do let me know. When it comes to public workshops, I run what there's demand for. So For those of you watching, I've got Remove the Roadblocks coming up on the 25th of Feb, so it's soon now. It's a full dayer. I used to only do it as a short one, but there is so much to unpack when it comes to roadblocks and what holds us back. So that's coming up on the 25th of Feb. On the 25th of March, a month later, I've got that public speaking workshop, and it's in Moe. Roadblocks is in Traralgon. Attention please, how to deliver engaging presentations is at Moe Library on the 25th of March. It's only a half-day workshop, so hopefully work will support you to attend. And the third public workshop I have coming up is Shut the Hell Up, how to control that little voice. It is the self-doubt workshop. We touch on that stuff in Roadblocks, but this is a pure self-doubt workshop. This one's on a weekend. It's on Saturday, the 2nd of May, and this one is really special. Tickets are, let's be frank, they're a quarter, if not less, of what I usually charge for this workshop. So tickets are only $50 plus the fees. So I think once you add the fees through Eventbrite, it's $58 for a 3-hour workshop. It's in Willow Grove at the Football Netball Club. And the important thing about this workshop, 100% of the ticket price is being donated to Beyond Blue. There are 2 local teams participating in the 60-kilometre Coast Trek walk down on the peninsula at the end of May. We have to do 60 Ks in a day. I'm hoping my knees hold up. I'm in training. And we have to raise $2,000 per team for Beyond Blue. So what our 2 teams are doing, our 2 teams from sort of the Traff Moe area, is we're running this workshop as our major fundraiser. So if you can get along, that would be fabulous. Details to all of these are on the events page of my Facebook page. And if you haven't also seen, Women in Gippsland, on which I'm on the committee for, has 2 International Women's Day events coming up. One featuring the fabulous Jamila Rizvi, only $14 for a ticket. She's a gun. She's one of Australia's top speakers, wrote the brilliant book, Not Just Lucky. It's at Warrigal Arts Centre, $14, and that represents the gender pay gap. It's going to be a cracking night. We've also got an event on the 3rd of March at Old Gippstown through the day, which is called Put Her Name on It, and it's all about looking at ways we can encourage the government, local and state, to start naming more places, roads, parks, signs, monuments after women instead of always defaulting to men. So get along. There's so much going on locally. Hope you got something out of tonight's episode. Please leave a comment. Click a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. If I know people are engaging, I keep delivering more of it. Thanks, folks, and have a great night. Cheers.